1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
Try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the good. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you. Talk to me. I can smile again.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, it's Monday, so it's Smiley and West at the top of hour two. Plenty to unpack today with Dr. Cornel West. On the B side of hour two, October is many things. Breast Cancer Awareness Month, to be sure. You see the pink everywhere. The Major League Baseball playoffs are in full effect. Go Dodgers. It's the start of the NBA season in a few days. Halloween, of course, around the corner. And October, you may or may not have known, is also National Bullying Awareness Month. And so tips about how to keep your kids safe from Tara Lynn Towns, CEO of Bullying Buddy. In our third hour, two more conversations. Up first, actor Robert Wisdom, best known as Howard Bunny Colvin on the hit TV series The Wire, on his new role in the Amazon Prime drama Terminal List Dark Wolf. On the B side of our three, a conversation with the first Black female puppeteer on Sesame Street. Think Reverend Peppers, think Gabrielle, the four-time Emmy Award-winning Megan Pipus on the B side of our final hour today. But in this first hour, let's talk with the former U.S. Attorney, former Chief Legal Analyst for CNN, and perennial, and I do mean perennial, New York Times bestselling author of a plethora of books, Jeffrey Toobin. Before I bring Jeffrey on the line, a couple clips. It is the news of the day, of course, no doubt about it. Here is Donald Trump speaking to the Israeli parliament as those hostages are freed.
After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region.
That's Donald Trump speaking again in front of the U.S. Parliament. Hostages, of course, freed now by Hamas in the Middle East. That was Donald Trump. Here now is Bibi Netanyahu on Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. No American president has ever done more for Israel. And as I said in Washington, it ain't even close. It's really not a match. Mr. President, today we welcome you here to thank you for your pivotal leadership in putting forward a proposal that got the backing of almost the entire world. A proposal that brings all our hostages home. A proposal that ends the war by achieving all our objectives.
High praise from Bibi Netanyahu for Donald Trump, who he calls the best friend, the greatest friend the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. Okay, there are your clips. Set the frame for this hour. I'm going to talk about a lot of Supreme Court stuff, of course. Jeffrey's books are in that lane. Some of his books are in that lane. I certainly want to probe that. But we'll start with this when we come forward with Jeffrey Toobin on Tavis.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it?
With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Donald Trump has all but declared war on California, sending in the National Guard, blocking disaster relief, and cutting funds to our colleges. And now, he and Texas Republicans are trying to rig the next election by stealing congressional seats from black voters in states like Texas.
They want to rig these elections, and they want the power that gerrymandering provides.
Seriously, look it up. But Prop 50 is how we fight back. It gives Californians the power to fight fire with fire and beat Trump at his own game. Prop 50 creates temporary emergency congressional maps that level the playing field and protect the power of Black votes. Not just in California, but across the country. Your vote matters, and the whole country is counting on California to lead. So use your vote to protect our power, our history, and our future. Vote yes on Prop 50 by November 4. Ad paid for by Yes on 50, the Election Rigging Response Act, Governor Newsom's Ballot Measure Committee, Ad Committee's top funders, HMP for Prop 50, and Fund for Policy Reform.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at kbla1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to kbla1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
All right, Jeffrey Toobin, there's more than enough there to get us started. Let me commence though by saying, how are you today, my friend?
I'm great, Tavis. Always good to talk to you.
The same here. A lot to cover in this hour, but let's just start with, again, the news of the day, not just news of this country, but indeed around the globe. I guess my first question is, what do you make of, I'll get to Donald Trump and BB specifically, but what do you make of this moment?
You know, Tavis, I think my view is simple and perhaps simple-minded. Today, the hostages are coming home. Today, the bombs are no longer flying. Today, the aid trucks are heading back into Gaza, where people need food so badly. These are all good things. That is my overwhelming reaction to the events of today. Yes, it's true there are many obstacles ahead, but to have a day like this is something to celebrate, and I'm very happy to do it.
I've been at this a long time, as Jeffrey Toobin, and I know how to interrogate when I hear a guy of his stature use the word today 5 times. Today.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, one of the things I always think about, when I've been on CNN, and people the common question that I get about news events is, well, what do you think is going to happen next? I mean, and the short answer is, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know that the events of today are good. And I just think it's worth pausing to celebrate that, because there's been so much horror and so much pain in that part of the world. And I'm just really, I'm glad to see these events unfolding.
I'm seeing all kind of comments already. It didn't take long. We just 15 minutes, 16 minutes into the hour. But when you get Jeffrey Toobin on and you have news like this, of course, the comments are going to start flying. Speaking of what happens next, the point that Jeffrey just made, which none of us really know, Tavis, I may be naive or crazy, but I've always felt that after they get the hostages back, Israel, that is, they'll go in and finish the job. They want all the land, all of it, and they will not stop until they succeed. I see other comments about the fact that while BB celebrates this day, as Jeffrey Toobin would say, today, this deal does not include at the moment Hamas disarming. So there are a lot of people, Jeffrey, I think like you call it simple and maybe simplistic. I'm not sure you're wrong about that at all. It may be simple and simplistic, but for many of us, that's exactly what it is. If you look at it in the context of what has happened in the region, we can discuss this in terms of what it means today. But tomorrow is a very different story. And I'm seeing already the cynicism about today, given what they think may happen tomorrow, Jeffrey.
Well, anyone who has followed developments in the Middle East is more than entitled to be cynical, because good news is usually outweighed by bad news, by bad news there. Just a couple things about those comments. The first point about now that the hostages are going to come home, is Israel going to go back in? That was a key part of the negotiation, and something that Hamas and its allies were very concerned about. Apparently, they have received satisfactory guarantees that Israel will not go back in. So, we shall see. But certainly that issue was aired before the ceasefire agreement. The ceasefire agreement was reached. And on the other side, there is an agreement that Hamas will disarm. That is part of the agreement. How that will be enforced, how much they will disarm in a region where everybody has a gun, I don't know. But those issues, those are very good comments from your listeners. But we just don't know how those issues will resolve themselves, among many others.
So let me go to these two major personalities here, and then we'll push towards some other conversation, domestic politics. Well, this has a domestic angle to it, to be sure, but Supreme Court and other issues I want to cover with Jeffrey Toobin. But the two major players here, Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu. Let me take Bibi first, and we'll pivot to Donald Trump. So you heard Bibi say that Donald Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. I'm thinking of that famous picture, Jeffrey, you recall of Jimmy Carter and Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. I think many people thought Jimmy Carter was a pretty good friend. But Bibi says it ain't even close. That Donald Trump is the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House. How do you take those comments?
Well, one of the things that all public officials, corporate leaders, everyone knows is that you can't praise Donald Trump enough to his face. He just loves to hear how wonderful he is, and Netanyahu, being no fool, is following that example. I think it is certainly true that Donald Trump has been very supportive of Israel, but I think we need to recognize that though it is great that there is a ceasefire today, there has been a terrible cost imposed in the Middle East. There, the number is in dispute: 50,000, 70,000. How many people in Gaza have died? It's just an absolute tragedy, and many people around the world think Israel exacted an excessive cost in this war, and Israel is now something like a pariah nation because of how it conducted this war. How and whether Israel is able to return to the family of nations is going to be a very big issue in the Middle East going forward. And Donald Trump, by not pushing Netanyahu harder or sooner, that's going to be a historical question that has to be answered. So yes, he is a big supporter of the Netanyahu government, but whether that is in the long-term interest of Israel is one of the many unanswered questions we have today.
Yeah. I want to ask Jeffrey Toobin in a moment what this all means for Bibi. We'll get to Donald Trump, I promise, in just a second. Questions about that for sure. But how does this affect Bibi politically at home? We've talked on this program ad infinitum, ad nauseum, over many months now, over a couple of years now, about the trouble that Bibi is in back home. He and Donald Trump at one point were in the same sort of box, both in legal trouble. There are many who believe that Bibi has extended this war as long as he has for his own, to give himself political cover, and that's putting it nicely. But I want to ask Jeffrey again what this means for Bibi inside of Israel now that these hostages have been returned. But back to Donald Trump. This is what Donald Trump had to say about the drama, the legal drama, rather, not political. It is political, but the legal drama that Bibi is facing. Here's what Donald Trump said in his address to Parliament.
I have an idea Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. By the way, that was not in the speech, as you probably know. But I happen to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. You know, whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. This has been one of the greatest wartime presidents.
So BB says that Donald Trump, I hear Jeffrey Toobin laughing already.
BB
said,
there are so many taboos that Donald Trump has broken in his life. But, one of them is that you stay out of the internal affairs of other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And, injecting himself into something as controversial as Netanyahu's legal troubles, is just typical of how he sees his role. But, he is who he is.
Yeah, so I wanted to play that all these clips so you could get a sense of it if you hadn't followed this story or not following the story. So BB says that Donald Trump is the greatest president Israel has ever had inside the White House, and Donald Trump returns the favor by saying, "Give him a pardon, give him a pardon." Here's an idea: give him a pardon. So it is what it is. I got a bright audience. I don't need to unpack this any more than we just have. Playing the clip alone is enough for this audience. But I do want to ask Jeffrey Toobin what this all means for Donald Trump's advocacy of BB notwithstanding. What's this mean for BB inside of Israel, you think?
Well, the interesting thing is, for all that there has been a lot of celebration, as there should be, of the events of today, the far right, which is indispensable to Netanyahu's coalition, wanted and wants an even more definitive victory in Gaza, and is looking essentially to annex the West Bank altogether. Both of those issues may force the far right out of his coalition because they don't feel like Netanyahu got enough. Israeli politics have sort of been on hold for 2 years in terms of elections, and now there may be pressure to call elections. Another issue that's been on hold is the October 7th assault on Israel was a catastrophic failure on the part of Israel's security services. And there has been no investigation of why that happened and who's responsible for that. That may happen. That may at least start to happen soon. And that could certainly have negative implications for Netanyahu's future. So there are a lot of moving parts. Netanyahu's future. One of the things, if you follow Israel, is you don't bet against Netanyahu. There's a reason he's been prime minister off and on for 20 years.
Yep.
And I see no reason to believe that he's going to be gone anytime soon, especially after what appears to be mostly a victory here.
As I said, Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu have been in the same box for quite some time, certainly given their legal troubles. But what Jeffrey said a moment ago about Bibi can also apply to Donald Trump. There are many people who believe that you don't bet against Donald Trump. He's running up the odds these days in a variety of ways. There are a number of things I want to talk about with regard to Donald Trump specifically. Jeffrey wrote a powerful piece, a guest essay for the New York Times. The title of it is "A Perilous Difference Between the Trump and Nixon Eras." A perilous difference between the Trump and Nixon eras. We'll let him unpack that as we move through this hour. The Supreme Court, as you know, has returned, and they are facing a Trump test, a variety of Trump tests when it comes to presidential power. We'll let Jeffrey unpack that as well. Before I do any of that, though, one final question about Donald Trump. And that is what this means for his legacy. It's far from over. We got 3 more years of this, God help us all. But this is, in the minds of many, a big deal. So much so that there's talk about him in the Nobel Peace Prize, which I think is a joke. Let me just go on the record saying it's not a funny joke, but you can't be on the side of supporting tens of thousands of people being murdered. You can't support genocide, and then all of a sudden, when you stop it, declare that you deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. That's like starting a fire, and then when the house is darn near burnt to the ground, you douse some water on it, and then you want to be regarded as a hero. So this talk about Donald Trump Nobel Peace Prize is an absolute joke to me. It's more than a joke. It's a mockery of what the prize ought to stand for. You consider the king has this prize, MLK. And then again, Henry Kissinger has it. Don't get me started on that. Anyway, what's this all mean for Donald Trump, Jeffrey? I'm sorry for the tirade.
The whole Nobel Prize obsession it seems to me so revealing of who Donald Trump is. I don't care about him winning some prize. I care about the world having peace, not whether he gets some prize.
Mm-hmm.
And most leaders, if you ask them, say the same thing, that they care about the substance, not the award. But again, that's evidence of his very self-centered approach to life. But to be fair,
yes.
I think if and when there is a presidential library, this will be a major event, and it should be a major event. Jimmy Carter, his the Camp David Accords between Sadat and Menachem Begin, Israel and Egypt, were an enormous achievement, and they're justly celebrated. And I think the fact that Trump and his advisors were able to broker this ceasefire is a very good thing, assuming it holds, for a reasonable period of time. So, I am happy to celebrate the fact that, Trump got this ceasefire done. But, I just think, focusing on whether he wins some prize or something is just an absurd distraction from what really matters in the world.
Well, to quote my friend Jeffrey Toobin, today, that is the word of the day, today.
Yes,
today, Donald Trump is taking a bow. Today, Bibi Netanyahu is taking a bow. We will see what happens tomorrow. But that is the storyline for today. They are both reveling in this particular moment. How long it lasts, we shall see. When we come forward for the rest of this hour with Jeffrey Toobin, we'll talk about the Supreme Court, these Trump tests that they're facing on presidential power. We'll talk about the perilous difference between the Trump and Nixon eras, the piece that Jeffrey wrote for the New York Times. A great deal more to cover when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Healthcare is a key issue as the government shutdown stretches on. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, appearing on Fox News, says millions are affected.
The states that are most affected are all states that Donald Trump has won. In fact, I think it's the top 5 states. So this is not a partisan fight for us. We're fighting for everyday Americans.
Thousands of federal workers are being laid off, mostly from health and Treasury. Shutdown fallout hits D.C. tourism. The Smithsonian closed all museums and the National Zoo Sunday, sparking disappointment and hurting nearby businesses. Crowds rushed in Saturday for one last look before the gates shut. And some Lakers fans are suing LeBron James over his second decision teaser. They thought it was a retirement announcement, but it turned out to be a Hennessy ad. One fan paid $865 for tickets to what he thought would be James's last game and claims false advertising. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was a good day Sunday for both of LA's NFL teams. The Chargers and Rams got a road win. Both teams are 4-2. The Chargers came from behind in the final minute to beat Miami 29-27. Cameron Dicker kicked a 33-yard field goal with 5 seconds left to win it. The Rams took advantage of a sluggish Baltimore offense without Lamar Jackson and coasted to a 17-3 win. The Rams defense shut out Baltimore after the first quarter. The Dodgers are in Milwaukee tonight for Game 1 of the National League Championship Series. First pitch at 5 o'clock. USC is back in the top 25 college football rankings after their 31-13 win over Michigan on Saturday. The 5-1 Trojans are ranked 20th. Top 5 teams in this week's poll: Ohio State, Miami, Tavis, Smiley's Indiana Hoosiers, Texas A&M, and Mississippi. Indiana is number 3 in the country after their win at number 7 Oregon on Saturday. It's the highest ranking in the history of Indiana football. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code COOL to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code COOL for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code COOL for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jeffrey Toobin, former CNN chief legal analyst, former U.S. attorney himself. the author of more books than I have time to mention, perennial New York Times bestselling author, The Nine, Inside the Secret World of the Supreme Court, The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. When he was last on this program, he's the guy that wrote the OJ book that became the big series that won all the awards. That was his book, The People versus OJ Simpson. So Jeffrey, again, perennial New York Times bestselling author, always honored to be in conversation with him. Jeffrey, I think I want to start with this. We'll work our way up to that provocative essay for the New York Times, a perilous difference between the Trump and Nixon eras. We'll work our way into that. But I want to start with the Supreme Court. They obviously are back to work. You've made part of your living covering this Supreme Court, writing about these 9 justices. They are facing a number of Trump tests when it comes to presidential power in this particular term. And whatever one thinks of Donald Trump, he has not been able to do what he's done by himself. To my mind, every time he gets in trouble, even at the federal appellate level, the Supreme Court always seems to rescue him. What say you about that and about the cases facing them regarding presidential power this term?
Well, this is really the Trump term before the Supreme Court, because virtually every case, with one important exception, which I'll mention, comes out of the president's attempts to expand presidential power. You know, is he allowed to impose all those tariffs unilaterally? Is he allowed to fire the heads of independent agencies like the Securities and Exchange Commission, the National Labor Relations Board? Those cases are, enormously important to, how the structure of our government. And the Supreme Court, as you say, has become very receptive to him, because there are 6 Republican appointees there, 3 Democratic, and that's how they vote on most of these critical cases.
Yeah. What's your sense, given the way my word was rescue, but by any other definition, they have been awfully understanding of Donald Trump's arguments and that of his administration. What's your sense of the way, given that you call this the Trump term essentially at SCOTUS, what's your sense of the way they're going to show up on these cases?
I think on most of them, Trump is going to win. I think he's going to be able to issue those tariffs. I think he's going to be able to fire those agency commissioners. The one area where I think he will lose is on the issue of birthright citizenship. There is the Fourth Amendment refers, the big issue in that case is really very straightforward. The 14th Amendment says everyone born in the United States is a citizen. There is, a convoluted attempt to overturn that, which Trump supports. But I think even this Supreme Court will look at the words of the 14th Amendment and say the understanding, which has been in place for well over 100 years in this country, that if you're born in the United States, you're a citizen here. I think they will ratify that over Trump's objections. But with the exception of that case, I think Trump is very much likely to get his way.
And what gives you
justices?
And what gives you reason to believe, Jeffrey, they will ratify that decision?
Because, frankly, it's just so obvious that you don't have to be a lawyer to read the text of the 14th Amendment, which uses the word born. That's not a complicated word. That's not a word that needs a lot of fancy legal degrees in order to interpret it.
But what about the argument? But what about the argument, Jeffrey? You know this stuff better than I do. You're the scholar here. What about the argument that phraseology was intended for slaves, the children of slaves?
I mean, it certainly was intended for the children of slaves, but the word still means what it means. And the court has interpreted it that way, including in a famous case from the 1890s. I mean, this has not been a controversial aspect of American law for a very long time. The only exceptions have been extremely narrow. They are the children of diplomats born in the United States, which, who are not considered citizens of this country. They're considered the children they're considered the citizens of the country to whom their parents, which their parents represent. And there are also issues related to Native American tribes which have a history of independence from the federal government. But this understanding of the word born is just, it's just not complicated. Born means born.
But see,
and
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
No, no apologies necessary. I'm just trying to make another point here. It's born means born, no question about it. But you're seizing on one particular word. And again, you're the Supreme Court scholar, not me. I'm just pushing back to get more out of you. So I understand what the word born means, and so does every member of the Supreme Court. So does every American who has a second grade, third grade education. We get that. But tell me why I should not believe that this Supreme Court will twist the law as it has for Donald Trump on immunity and a number of other things I could point out if I had the time. And come forth with this argument about original intent. So you're seizing on a word, but these people are all these conservatives believe in what they call original intent. And if the original intent of the law, never mind the use of the word born, if the original intent was for the children of slaves, could not that be the cover they give themselves to give Donald Trump what he's asking for?
It could, and I wouldn't be surprised if Clarence Thomas and Wood Gorsuch voted that way.
Okay.
But remember, the originalists also call themselves textualists.
Right.
And by that they mean we are guided by the text of the law. This is why they say, well, there's the Constitution doesn't say anything about abortion, so abortion rights are not protected. It's not in the text. Born is in the text.
Right.
And but it is very easy to make a textualist argument that birthright citizenship should be preserved because of the text of the Constitution. So you're right that this is one of the rare cases where you could make an originalist argument, but you can't make a textualist argument. And I think I think the textualist argument will prevail here.
I hear your argument. Those two things are in conflict, and we will see which one, originalist or textualist. We'll see which one. Those two great Scrabble words, by the way, originalist and textualist. If you can get all the right letters. I digress on that for now. What does this mean, though, for presidential power? We're going to talk in a moment about your piece in the New York Times I referenced earlier about the difference between Trump and Nixon and their terms. But every time I think about Richard Nixon, Jeffrey, I kind of chuckle to myself because Nixon must be turning over in his grave. I know what he's thinking. Y'all ran me out of town for that, and Donald Trump gets to do all of this and then some. So what does this all mean? This term, that is, with regard to presidential power that Donald Trump is seizing more of for the executive branch.
Yeah, as a friend of mine likes to say, there are 3 Watergates a week in this administration. So, times have changed in many respects. What it means is that Donald Trump will have a much freer hand to do what he wants. Remember, there are also cases bubbling up. They're not there yet. Elon Musk, shutting down the U.S. Agency for International Development, an agency that was authorized by Congress, shutting down the Department of Education, an agency shut down, authorized by Congress. These are actions that were inconceivable for previous presidents. The idea that they could lay off untold numbers of people who have civil service protection. By the way, that's having a terrible impact on the Black community in Washington because a lot of Black people in Washington, work for the government. I mean, you go to Prince George's County, Maryland, which is a heavily Black part of Maryland, full of middle class people.
That's right.
Who have who work for the government. This is having a terrible impact there, and it's only made worse by the shutdown. So, these are issues that, I sometimes worry that when we talk about the Supreme Court, it all seems like abstractions and angels dancing on the head of a pin. But these decisions have huge implications for people's lives. And Trump's assertion of expanded executive power has meant that thousands of people have lost their job through no fault of their own. And that is one of the things that is very much on the Supreme Court's plate this year.
Yeah, I've said this repeatedly on this program. One of the things I know, and Jeffrey knows this as well, studying these issues as long as we have, that no president ever returns presidential power. So whatever Donald Trump seizes for the executive branch, every president thereafter will have those same powers and try to grab for more, no doubt. Jeffrey mentioned the government shutdown, and he's right about the fact that the Black unemployment numbers, I've said many times, are through the roof right now. Black women are the canary in the mine because their numbers are extremely high, because so many Black people in Washington and beyond, all federal workers are not just in D.C., but we're taking it on the chin. The Black community is when it comes to these firings and layoffs that Donald Trump is now doing on steroids, if you will, given this government shutdown. But Marjorie Taylor Greene had some interesting comments about this shutdown that I want to play for Jeffrey and you when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready? Drop it! Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially Black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my Black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. You know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at kbla1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to kbla1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. This is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jeffrey Toobin. My time is getting tight. Let me play this clip for you right quick. Now, make note, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yes, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, with her view of who's going to get blamed for this shutdown.
I see the shutdown completely different from maybe my party leadership. And I'm not putting the blame on the president. I'm actually putting the blame on the speaker and Leader Thune in the Senate. We control the House. We control the Senate. We have the White House. I've been vocal saying, you can use the nuclear option in the Senate. This doesn't have to be a shutdown. I absolutely support the president. I campaigned for him for years. But I'm also an action person, and I want my party to solve problems.
And you say he's not getting good advice, though. You told Monty Raju. What specifically?
Well, I don't think it's good advice that a government shutdown is going to help Republicans in the midterms. I don't agree with that. I also don't think it's good advice that Republicans ignoring the health insurance crisis is going to be good for midterms. I actually think that would be very bad for midterms.
I got a quick 60 seconds here, Jeffrey Toobin, for your take on at least one Republican saying this is not good for them, but we'll continue when we come forward. Give me your thoughts on this, though, right quick.
Beats the hell out of me. Insight into the mind of Marjorie Taylor Greene is something that I do not possess.
But it does raise the question. It does raise the question, though, as to whether or not Republicans are going to share the blame here.
Well, of course. I mean, I thought what she said made perfect sense, and that's what is just sort of hard to believe, because that's not how I usually describe what she says. But look, I mean, the House is not even in session.
Yeah,
they are not even. They haven't even sworn in the congresswoman who was just elected in Arizona. I mean, they are completely pretending as if they have no role in settling this, which is affecting, millions of Americans. And I think her point about, the idea that Obamacare premiums are going to go up by double, and people aren't going to blame the Republican Party. Of course they are. I mean, I just think what she said makes perfect sense.
Well, as my grandmother said, and I'm sure everybody else's grandmother said, a broken clock is right twice a day. So even Marjorie Taylor Greene can be right once or twice a day. And that was her one time for this day. Our remaining moments with Jeffrey Toobin when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jeffrey Toobin for the next 4 minutes. I will yield all 4 of my minutes to Jeffrey to unpack this piece that you may have seen. If you didn't, I highly recommend you read it because it draws some interesting parallels. The piece is called "A Perilous Difference Between the Trump and Nixon Eras." Take it away, Jeffrey Toobin.
Well, one of the most notorious facts about the Nixon presidency is that he kept an enemies list. It started with 20 people and it grew to about 300. But the idea that a president would keep a list of explicitly designated enemies was considered very un-American and really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But what Donald Trump has done is he's made his enemies list public. He has said, my enemies are Tish James, the Attorney General of New York, James Comey, the former director of the FBI, James Bolton, the former national security advisor. And the difference is that even though Nixon kept this list, he didn't really do anything to those people. I mean, nothing really happened to them. They certainly weren't prosecuted. They weren't audited by the IRS, even though those were raised as possibilities. But the chilling thing is you see Donald Trump designating individuals for prosecution, at least so far, on very dubious cases, as in the cases against Attorney General James and Director Comey. The idea that the president can direct prosecutions of individuals, without the intermediary of at least a somewhat independent Justice Department, is a very scary development. And that's why I wrote the piece.
And what does all of that say, Jeffrey Toobin, about the rule of law in this country? It is the Republican Party, of course, that branded that phrase, has used it more than anybody else. The rule of law, law and order. What does your comment now say about the rule of law, the state of the rule of law in this country?
What it says is that the rule of law isn't just based on the laws on the books. They're based on traditions and norms. The idea that the president, even though he is technically head of the Justice Department, does not pick out people to be prosecuted. That is a tradition that has honored the rule of law, but there is no law to that effect. And I think what we have seen so often in the Trump presidency is a departure from these norms and traditions that protect the rule of law. And I think this is a big one. It's a scary one. And here we are, only 8 or 9 months into his second term.
Yeah.
We could see a lot more of it.
60 seconds to go here. What is the scariest part for you of our these law enforcement agencies being so politicized?
Well, I think just to make it a little broader, what's scariest is the takeover of local law enforcement by the federal government, including the military.
Yeah.
The idea that troops are going into Chicago, going into Portland, and if Mr. Mondami wins the mayoral election in New York City, you can be sure there'll be troops here in New York City as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a very scary development in terms of how Americans experience freedom, and that to me is the scariest, because it affects the most people.
So many books, so little time. I can't run them all, but he's a perennial New York Times best-selling author. The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy, The Nine, Inside the Secret World of the Supreme Court. 2 you might want to grab and read, given the moment that the perilous moment that we find ourselves in, to use Jeffrey Toobin's word. Jeffrey, as always, thanks for your insight, man. Great to have you on. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Healthcare is a key issue as the government shutdown stretches on. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, appearing on Fox News, says millions are affected.
The states that are most affected are all states that Donald Trump has won. In fact, I think it's the top 5 states. So this is not a partisan fight for us. We're fighting for everyday Americans.
Thousands of federal workers are being laid off, mostly from health and Treasury. Shutdown fallout hits D.C. tourism. The Smithsonian closed all museums and the National Zoo Sunday, sparking disappointment and hurting nearby businesses. Crowds rushed in Saturday for one last look before the gates shut. And some Lakers fans are suing LeBron James over his second decision teaser. They thought it was a retirement announcement, but it turned out to be a Hennessy ad. One fan paid $865 for tickets to what he thought would be James's last game and claims false advertising. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was a good day Sunday for both of LA's NFL teams. The Chargers and Rams got a road win. Both teams are 4-2. The Chargers came from behind in the final minute to beat Miami 29-27. Cameron Dicker kicked a 33-yard field goal with 5 seconds left to win it. The Rams took advantage of a sluggish Baltimore offense without Lamar Jackson and coasted to a 17-3 win. The Rams defense shut out Baltimore after the first quarter. The Dodgers are in Milwaukee tonight for Game 1 of the National League Championship Series. First pitch at 5 o'clock. USC is back in the top 25 college football rankings after their 31-13 win over Michigan on Saturday. The 5-1 Trojans are ranked 20th. Top 5 teams in this week's poll: Ohio State, Miami, Tavis Smiley's Indiana Hoosiers, Texas A&M, and Mississippi. Indiana is number 3 in the country after their win at number 7 Oregon on Saturday. It's the highest ranking in the history of Indiana football. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
As I walk this land of broken dreams, I have visions of many things, but happiness is just an illusion, filled with sadness and confusion. What becomes of the broken hearted who had love that's now departed? I know I've got to find some kind of peace of mind, baby.
I wait with bated breath, just like you do every Monday and Thursday at the top of the second hour, to hear what the walk-on music for the day is going to be. What becomes of the brokenhearted? Doc, how are you today, sir?
My dear brother, always a blessing to hear your voice.
Likewise.
Indeed, indeed.
Why is this track on your mind today?
Brother, my heart is broken. It's been broken for a long time, but I'm still fighting. But in the summer of 1966, when Riser and Dean and Witherspoon put this together, they wrote it for the Spinners, but gave it to Jimmy Ruffin, who's the older brother of David Ruffin, who sings lead for the Temptations. He said, we got to convey in music a level of sadness and sorrow, but still generate forms of resistance and resilience. You know, Reiser, Paul Reiser, brother, you know, he arranged Step in the Name of Love for R. Kelly, man.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's the kind of scope and breadth that he has as a musician. And given what's going on right